A tint is a mixture of a color with white. When you mix a color with white, it increases the lightness of that color. Hue is a color. We most commonly talk about them in their common names such as blue, yellow, and red. To create a tint of a color, we simply add the hue to white. So for instance, if you wanted to create a tint of red, you would add red to white. So if you look at the hue on the left and find red, and then you look at the identical location on the tint color wheel, you'll see that pink happens when we take white and we add some red to that. Okay, when mixing tints of a color, let's talk about the equipment that we will be using for this part of the project. We need equipment first to actually have a space to mix the color in, and we're going to have a paper towel to keep your brush dry, a plate for actually mixing the colors on, so you're mixing your tints on this paper plate, a brush for the mixing, and a container that has water so you can clean your brush between the different tints that you're going to be mixing. White is going to be the color that we use the most of because that's the bulk of the color, that's the basis of it, and then you'll have access to a variety of different types of hue colors, so regular colors, to mix with the white for creating different tints of colors. When you're ready to start mixing your tints for your project, you'll need to get your paint onto the paper plate. We're using these squeeze bottles in the classroom, and one important thing to remember about the squeeze bottles is that they're squeeze bottles. So when you turn them over with the cap open to get the paint onto the plate, you do not want to squeeze too hard. You want to make certain that you're taking just a little bit of paint, about a quarter-sized amount, using up that paint first. And if you run out, you can always go back and get some more. But if you take too much, if you have a giant puddle of paint on your plate, we can't put that back, and essentially that becomes wasted. So take some white and put it on the plate. It might be a little hard to see because it is white on white. This should be about a quarter-sized amount. And then I would start with one of the colors that you'd like to mix a tint of. I'm going to be demonstrating with green. So I'm going to take my green and I'm going to put it separate from the white. So I'm going to put my green over here. And the colors are very powerful as far as they are pigmented to the white. So there's a lot more color in here than there is in the white, obviously. So you're going to need less of the color and a little bit more of the white. So for the color, I recommend maybe about a large dime-sized amount. So when you're ready to start mixing your tint, you always want to start with the white and add the color into the white. So take the color and you mix it into the white. You don't want to do that the other way around because you won't be able to get a pale enough tint, and you're going to end up using almost twice as much paint to achieve the same color. So I'm ready to go ahead and mix my first tint, and what I'm going to do is take just a little bit of that green and I'm going to mix it into this white to get sort of like a pale minty green, a tint of green. I'm not going to go crazy and mix like a giant mess on my plate because I still want to mix other tints, and everybody only gets one plate, and you want to make certain that you leave yourself enough room to work for your other colors you'd like. So I'm going to dip my brush just a little bit into the green, so just a little bit of green on the brush, and I'm going to mix it directly into this pile of white that's right here. I'm going to try to keep controlled mixing. Now, it's not hard for your mixture to sort of get bigger and bigger and take up more and more space, but try your best to keep that controlled right in that area, okay? So as you can see, it was almost instantly that the mint color started appearing on my mixture of my tint. So what I'm doing right now is creating a tint of green. This is a tint of green. If I had used red, I would be creating a tint of red, or blue is a tint of blue. So now that I have this mixture, it's all mixed up, it's nice and even, it's not terribly streaky, I'm ready to go ahead and show you what this tint looks like. So when you're mixing, you mix it nice and thoroughly, and then go ahead and paint it onto your project where it needs to go. And you can see that I've got a nice pale minty color here. Now I could use what I have already, and maybe I have the need for a little bit darker tint. So I could go ahead and rinse my brush, because I don't want to put white into my green. If I want it to be plain green, I need to keep the green nice and clean. I'll go ahead and rinse that, dry it off on my paper towel. You don't want to try to mix color with a wet, sloppy brush. And if I wanted to make this tint a deeper tint, I would simply just take a little bit more green again and mix it right into the first tint that I made. And I'll only do this in half so you can see the difference that's there. So can you see here in this section where I've started mixing that tint, that now I have a little bit deeper tint? So I have a really pale tint and I have a medium tint of green, but it's not anywhere close to the original green. And if I were to go ahead and paint this tint right here, you can see that there's definitely a difference from them. So from just two colors, you can get a wide range of different types of tints. So you can go from very pale to very deep, all the way up to the actual green. Okay, so I went ahead and I mixed up some more tints of green. You can see that this first one we mixed versus the last one that got mixed, there's quite a wide range of color opportunities there. So when you're mixing, start with the white, add the color of your tint into the white, and don't be a messy mixer. You want to make certain you leave enough space in your plate, so if you do want to go ahead and do an additional color, you do have the space to do it. Make certain that you're not taking too much paint at the beginning. You can always go back and add more, but we can't put the overused paint back into the bottles. It just doesn't work that way. Okay, just to say it one more time, because it's a really, really important thing to remember when you're working with mixing tints of color. You always want to start with the white and you add the color into the white. So if you start with white, that is right. So starting with white is right. Add the color to the white.